All right, this is the Man Therapy Podcast. His name is Kyle. My name is Dan, and we're back at it again. Kyle, boy, you're jacked, dude. Just yoked out of your mind, dude.
You can see it through my shirt.
First off, let's beat our chests like Neanderthals a little bit here.
Yeah.
Did you watch that college football playoff game?
Yeah, I did.
Dude, that was an amazing game.
It was great. All I was hoping for was a good game, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, even though Indiana was favored to win, they were still the underdog from just like decades of sucking.
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty cool to, watch them win, have an undefeated season, be dominant the whole season.
Yeah.
And I like their coach. Their quarterback is a unique character.
Yeah.
That Mendoza guy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I honestly thought Miami was going to get smoked. But did you know one of those guys just turned 18? He reclassified. I think it was number 10. I forget his name. I think he scored 1 or 2 touchdowns in the game.
Wow.
But he reclassified. So right now in sports, there's a big push to hold kids back after their 8th grade year and then homeschool them and then start them the following year as a freshman. Yeah. So they get better at sports or whatever.
Yeah.
This kid did the opposite. He reclassified to an older grade.
Wow. He's
a
stud.
So most of this season, he played college football at a very high level at 17 years old. Blows my mind. Do you know what I was doing when I was 17?
Probably the same thing was.
Nothing high level about me. Nothing high level.
Yeah, dude.
At all.
Yeah, for real. Some high level naps.
Yeah, exactly.
Some high level avoiding work.
Yeah, high level crushing, shotgunning bush lights in some farm field somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's super impressive. Those guys are all crazy.
Yeah.
And there's such a difference between a 18-year-old and like a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
18-year-olds playing against 22-year-olds out there is crazy to me too.
Yeah. Blows my mind. Okay, so the playoffs are set for the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got? The Rams.
Mm-hmm.
My boy's been, my oldest boy, he's been really getting into watching the playoff games, which is kind of fun.
Good.
Yep. So the Rams and the Seahawks.
Yep.
And then the who is it?
Patriots?
Who's the other? Patriots versus the Broncos. Broncos are in kind of trouble, dude. Their quarterback broke his ankle.
Yeah, kneeling. Didn't he? He broke his ankle kneeling out at the end of the game.
You got to be kidding me. That's how it happened?
I think so. Second to last play of the game, he just took a knee to like expire the clock and broke his foot.
How does that happen?
Dude, he just kneeled the shit out of that ball, I guess.
He powerbombed it.
Yeah, dude.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's Captain Insano. That's too bad because I mean I would have liked to have seen the Broncos. I don't know that I want to see the Broncos with their backup quarterback, but
no. I honestly, I think the Seahawks are going to win, my gut, but I think Rams had the number 1 offense this year, and the Patriots, I really like Drake Maye, their quarterback. So I think I would like to see Patriots versus either of the other 2 teams. I think I'd like to see Seahawks more than LA, but
okay.
Hey man, I'm going to have a crock pot of Little Smokies regardless of what what's your go-to Super Bowl appetizer?
Well, first of all, Little Smokies are a classic, but that's instant heartburn for me.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, dude. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I think barbecue sauce probably because there's so much sugar and there's a lot of acidity in it. And dude, I love Little Smokies, so I'll just eat a shit ton of Little Smokies. Mm-hmm. I also like the classic buffalo chicken dip that everybody's wife makes.
Yep.
Those are the 2 things that come to mind when I think of like Super Bowl food. I think of a crock pot of each right next to each other, Little Smokies and buffalo chicken dip.
Back in the day when I had more time, I would do the whole wing thing, the chicken wings, I would have an assortment where I would smoke chicken wings in the smoker to get the smoke flavor and basically cook most of it. Yep. Then I would dredge them or, like an egg white and then put them so they would get in the fryer so they would get crispy. Yep. Then toss them in barbecue or buffalo or, garlic garlic and parm and like that kind of stuff. I used to do that, but they take a long time. The gets the kitchen messy. Now I'm into opening bags of things and dumping them into crock pots or pans.
Yeah, crock pots. You can't beat a crock pot in the Midwest.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm reminded of one of my favorite Louis C.K. quotes. He said, "The meal isn't over when I'm full. The meal is over when I hate myself." That reminds me of just grazing all day, like, oh God, what am I doing?
Exactly.
Oh, God.
Have you? This is bad. But when was the last time you went to a buffet?
Man, I can't. Well, I'd like Pizza Ranch for pizza, but not a true buffet in the sense of like a variety of options.
Yeah. My favorite is...
I've been in trouble at a lot of buffets though.
Yeah, back in the day I used to get in trouble, but this sounds bad, but like looking at people who have literally given up on their life, and it's almost like they're like, you know what? I hate myself today.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the Pizza Ranch, or I'm going to go to there's that buffet on the Strip in Iowa City or Coralville next to
is it the Chinese one?
Like the Great Wall or whatever.
Yeah, Great Wall.
Or something, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
Dude, the food's good there.
Yeah.
But I'm to an age now where you said you get affected by like maybe some barbecue sauce or stuff with high acidity.
Yeah.
I think I have a reaction to, and I looked it up. It's a thing. They call it Chinese heartbeats or something, like Chinese food heartbeats, where there's so much sodium and MSGs in Chinese food that if you eat too much of it, your heart will start, your blood pressure just skyrockets, and you start like your I don't know, really bad heartbeats or really fast, heavy heartbeats.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
yeah, I'll have to. I'm gonna look that up, dude. When we were in undergrad, my roommates and I, every once in a while would be like, "Do you remember Old Country Buffet?" There's a place called Old Country Buffet, and it was a true buffet, and we'd be for I don't know, $10 or something. Obviously, all you can eat, and so we'd be like, "I want to go to OCB," and we'd all be like, "Oh God." Okay, let's do it, because we all knew what it meant. And so we'd go and we'd just eat and see who can eat the most plates, and just plates stacked up. And by the end of it, dude, we'd each be like laying on a bench in a different, in a different booth, just like in absolute pain.
Right. Oh, that's hilarious.
In the restaurant. And then the next day, just fighting over the toilet, taking just monstrous dumps. I'll never forget OCB.
Man, I was lucky. So back in the day, at the college I went to, we had at University of Northern Iowa, I lived by a Hy-Vee, and it was $5 for a 2 entree meal back then.
Oh yeah.
And it was $2.50 if you showed your college ID, your student ID. And so I ate Chinese food almost every day because it was $2.50 for a 2 entree meal.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, dude. And I got fat.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. One of my roommates in college, his grandparents were German, and they lived in Davenport, which is about an hour from Iowa City. And so we would drive there to spend the night. And his grandma was an incredible cook, and it was the super stereotypical, like, you sit down, she starts putting food on everyone's plate, and you start eating. You're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And you eat and you finish your plate, and you're like, oh, that was really good. And then she stands up and she just starts putting food on everyone's plate again. And you look at her like, uh-oh. Like, now I have
disrespectful if you leave.
Yeah. I can't not eat this. Let me just, so you're like, okay, oh, here we go. I can do it. So then you do. So you eat all that. And then she stands up and puts food on everyone's plate. And now you're sweating and you're going, uh-oh. Yeah. I really don't think I can do this, but you don't want to offend her, and it's so good. So you finish that, and then you go to bed at like 8 at night and sleep all night. And then it's a track race to get home, because you've got like a 2-foot log inside you. You're just prairie dogging, trying so hard not to shit your pants on the way home because you just got absolutely stuffed.
I love it.
Man, those are some good memories. I love grandmas, man.
Dude, I love this podcast that we're doing. And you know why?
Why?
Because we're talking about overeating and pooping and then going to transfer at some point into something extremely professional.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think that's to me that's pretty congruent with our relationship. You and I
Mhm.
we can get real low brow, and then we can also have
Yep.
good
Yep.
deep conversations. It was
Yep.
basically how this whole thing spawned, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. Well, I think this is the time where we pull out the hard pivot
Yeah.
and we start talking about today's topic. And this is
Yeah.
something that um, I've seen a lot in personal relationships. I've seen a lot in on social media, through some doom scrolling, and then I, I start to, because we do this podcast, I start to pay attention to more of the topics when it comes to relationships and counseling and just basically, I guess, traits of individuals in relationships, good or
Mhm.
bad. So
Yeah.
the word I want to propose today, and I'm just going to high level ask this to you,
Mhm.
whether it's in your personal or professional space, what does the word weaponizing mean to you?
Yeah. To me, weaponizing means purposefully exploiting some situation or characteristic in a manipulative way in an attempt to get what you want.
Okay.
I would want to throw the word coercion in there somewhere, that you would be the person weaponizing the whatever the issue that they're weaponizing is. They're trying to do it in a coercive way that would make the other person feel really bad.
Yeah. Give me an example that you tend to see the word weaponizing used, or that you see the most in your professional career.
Yeah. Okay, let me think for 1 second. So, when I think of weaponizing that I see with my clients, there's weaponized incompetence.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I just can't. I couldn't possibly do that. I don't even know how to do that. And it's like
Hmm.
you're not even trying. You're not even
Yeah.
trying to learn. Um, uh, trauma, which is where trauma. I'll say. I guess I'll say trauma slash anxiety slash mental health. Generally speaking, I think. I think maybe if I were to simplify all that, I might just say mental health.
Okay.
And when I say all this, by the way, I'm not saying that anyone that has trauma weaponizes it, or anyone that has anxiety weaponizes it. I'm talking about people that have those things that do weaponize it, that will say, oh, I have this, and so I can't possibly be held accountable for anything
Yeah.
that I do.
Yeah.
Because the reality of the situation is, like, I can respect your trauma, but your trauma is not a free pass for your behaviors. Like, you're still responsible for your behaviors,
Yeah.
and that's the tricky part. So, also to add to the definition of weaponizing, I feel like it's usually to avoid consequences, or it's often to avoid consequences, to not be held accountable.
Okay. So competency, anxiety, trauma. Um, could we, I look at those, especially anxiety and trauma. I look at that and I say negative, right? There's anxiety and there's trauma. Those are negative things. But
Mhm.
then could could an emotion like love be weaponized in some way, shape, or form?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I think that a person that weaponizes love, like, if one partner is taking advantage of the other's love of them,
Hmm.
that's weaponizing love. Like, I know that you love me so much I can get you to do anything. I know
Hmm.
that you love me so much that you're not going to say no. Um
And I'll be a horrible person type of deal.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Um so then I think those folks think that they're talking about love, but I think they're really probably talking about enmeshment, or like codependency,
Hmm.
because I think I don't think that's real love. I think if you if you love someone, you're not necessarily easily coerced by them.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but and to stick with the weaponizing idea, I think it takes I think it takes an underdeveloped or immature or possibly desperate person to choose to weaponize, because we could all do it. Like there are certain cards that I know that I could play in my marriage, in my relationships, that I choose not to play because I wouldn't stoop to that level.
Right.
And to me, like, weaponizing is when you're stooping to a level because you actually don't have the skill to do it any other way.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Give me an example of that in a hypothetical scenario.
Yeah. Okay. If I know that I'm like dealing with somebody that's like really sensitive and is a people pleaser, then I might turn the screws of making them feel really guilty to do something that I want
Hmm.
them to do. And I know that it'll work, and I'll sit there and watch them squirm. And an unhealthy person will do that because there could be a lot of reasons for that. So sometimes people do that because they are maniacal and they are just shitty people.
Yeah.
Sometimes people do that because they grew up in such a crappy environment that that's a survival skill that they learned.
Hmm.
Like they've basically learned that they have to be cutthroat to get their
Yeah.
needs met. So some people my heart goes out to, and some people I'm like, geez, just steer clear of people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So i this is where if you grew up in a shitty household, whether you're physically beaten or emotionally abused, and maybe you've gone through your entire life not ever knowing how to treat people the right way, and even though you're potentially trying to be a better person than your parents or whoever it was that you lived with, you still have you're still falling short um in a relationship that's new, or in a relationship where it started off one way and it's slowly going into a
Oh yeah.
different direction, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you, let's say, maybe the person identifies that they're weaponizing trauma or anxiety or sex or complacency, in or not necessarily competency, excuse me, not complacency, but competency. And let's say I identify that you're doing that to me. What's
Yeah.
the conversation look like with someone who has never really unpacked any of their trauma, or they're using anxiety as an excuse for their behavior?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, um, I was looking at an article. It's called Seven Strategies for Escaping Traps Set by Emotionally Manipulative People.
Okay.
And the seven traps are guilting, playing the victim, blame shifting, lying, gaslighting, and intimidating.
Hmm.
Okay, like those are all tactics that a manipulative person will use. Okay,
Okay.
so guilting is making us feel guilty for not cooperating with or volunteering to carry out their wishes or taking responsibility for their emotions. They'll guilt you for that. Playing the victim is seeking sympathy and claiming that others are responsible for their problems and feelings. Blame shifting is claiming that everything bad is someone else's fault, even when the fault clearly lies with them. So that's like your classic, I don't know if you have ever dated someone that just somehow always turned everything around on you, and you're like, Jesus, I can't win. Like, how am I always in trouble in this
Yeah.
relationship? Also, like, I think it's funny when like this one in particular is interesting to me because I've worked with a lot of people that have been like, I know that I'm a nice person. I know that I'm a nice guy, like, or a nice woman or whatever. Like, how am I always in the wrong? I'm just
Yeah.
always finding my partner's always mad at me and I'm always in the wrong. And I've never had this experience in my life. There's no way I'm possibly messing up as much as this person is making me feel like I am, because this is the only relationship in which I've ever felt this way. I can't
Yeah.
do anything right ever.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey,
it,
can I interrupt you there for a
yeah,
second?
dude.
Because this is part of what you're saying right now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you communicate that? So like if I went to, let's use my wife as an example. If I went to my wife and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm having a real hard time with you doing this."
Yeah.
And then my wife goes, "Actually, I'm having a real hard time with you doing this. And you
Yeah.
do this and you do this," or whatever the case is. Well, am I equally to blame? Like I'm trying to address a problem, whether that's with my wife or with a friend or a
Yeah.
family member or whatever, and then
Yeah.
it it switches back to the person who brings it up, and it's
Yeah.
like, wait a second,
That's it. That's
how?
it. Exactly. That's turning the table because they can't
Okay,
take accountability.
yeah,
So that's that's deflection and then turning the table to not take accountability. So a
but
couple
how do you
things.
know that? Like, that's the hard part because
How
those
do you know
people,
that? So
you know
you
what I
know
mean?
you see the pattern. Like you just laid out the pattern. Is
Yeah,
like, hey, I'm bringing a real concern to say my partner, and what would you in a vacuum? What do you how do you think a healthy partner would respond to something like that?
yeah,
They'd say, "Oh, thanks for bringing this up. Yeah, let's talk about it. Tell me how you feel about this. Like, let's figure this out." I actually am working with a client right now that he brought this term to me that he read in a book, and the term is, "Oh, let's get in the pool of shared meaning." which is, and he laughs about it. He's like, "This is so corny and dumb, but like it also just makes a ton of sense." And
yeah,
when he says, "Let's get in the pool of shared meaning," what he means is let's both understand each other's sides.
hmm,
So it's not defensive. It's like, "Oh, my partner's coming to me with something real. Since I care about my partner, I care about their feelings."
yeah,
So you get in the pool of shared meaning and hear about it. Um the first thing that you do is you trust yourself. You have to
hmm,
pay attention to your own gut feeling and your own senses where you're going like, this is confusing. Why don't this isn't how I thought my partner was going to respond. Okay?
yeah,
So trust yourself. And the thing I'll say to clients is don't abandon yourself. Don't be a traitor to yourself. If you know
hmm,
something's wrong or something's up, don't abandon yourself to keep the other person comfortable,
right,
because then you're just being a traitor to yourself, and like you're the one person that you have to be able to look in the eye at the end of the day. You're the only one looking out for you essentially.
yeah,
So don't abandon yourself. Don't be a traitor to yourself. When when a situation comes up like that, I would name the pattern. Actually, it'd probably be good to do that when you're not arguing with a person. I might say, "Hey, there's something important that I want to talk about. Would you be willing to talk about something with me?" Hopefully they say yes to that. And then I would lay out the problem like, "Hey, whenever I bring something up, I want to talk about this issue. We don't ever get to talk about that issue. You end up saying you end up bringing a whole bunch of other stuff into it. I just want to talk about this one issue."
hmm,
I would try hard to train the person to say, let's talk about one thing at a time. And I have done that in the past. I'm not necessarily saying I've had to do it with my wife, but I've had to do it with people in the past where they try and I'm like, "Hey, here's an issue that I want to talk about. I don't like X, Y, and Z." And then they're like, "Oh, well, I don't like A, B, C, and D."
mm,
And then I'll look them straight in the eye and I'll say, "That's fine. We can talk about all of that. First, let's talk about the thing that I brought up."
yeah,
So I won't get in the mud with them about that.
yeah,
So I'll say, "Can we talk about the thing that I brought up or not?"
yeah,
And if they
yeah.
don't want to, then that's pretty clear issue. Um,
That's crazy because the people who tend to weaponize are really good. And it's almost like a trained skill
oh yeah,
to to be very accurate in turning the tables and making the other person be like, God, am I really that way? Do I
right,
really like, do I really am I really like that? Am I as bad of a person as they say?
yeah,
And then it makes them think because, I mean, any good person who wants to bring something to the table with a spouse or a loved one or in a relationship,
yeah,
they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart.
yeah,
Then that other person gets instantly defensive, doesn't ever want to open up, attacks back, and then says something like along the lines, I don't know, I don't even know what a response would be in a scenario like that. Like, well, I have to walk on eggshells every time I'm around you because you're bringing this up to me all the time, and I
Right.
feel I can't be myself, and I can't, do this
Yeah.
when, when you do this. And
Yeah.
so then the other person is like, okay, well, let me take a step back. I don't want to finish this conversation. Maybe I need to evaluate myself a little bit more. And then you kind of realize, boom, I've just been taken advantage of
Yeah. Yeah.
for that. And you're like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm actually
Yeah.
trying real hard to have a conversation about it. And this person twisted it instantly. And that's their way of,
Mhm.
what is that? What is that? What's the,
Oh,
are
yeah.
they just trying to
They're
avoid?
usually they're protecting their ego, and I don't mean that they're egotistical.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually protecting themselves emotionally.
Yeah.
There's for some reason they can't handle scrutiny. They can't
Mm-hmm.
handle criticism. They can't they see it as a personal attack.
Yeah.
Often it's not because of you. Could be because of you. If it's because of you, you have to like look in the mirror and understand that. But I feel
Yeah.
like, the very stereotypical thing that a counselor would say is a lot of that comes from childhood. That maybe the kid grew up in a volatile home and um never had and had to like protect themselves, or actually the opposite can happen too. I saw this clip of Tony Robbins talking to a woman that was really unhappy with her husband, and as Tony Robbins was talking to her, he basically said, I would tell your husband to like cut bait and run. Said that I think you would be a horrible partner. It would be horrible to be in partnership with you
Mm-hmm.
because you've been spoiled by abundance. So
Mm-hmm.
he was like, this particular woman, like her dad brought her up, treating her like she was a princess, telling her she's a princess, never holding her accountable for anything,
Mm-hmm.
giving her everything she ever wanted. She never had to contend with anyone else's thoughts or feelings. And so she's just used to being catered to. So she was spoiled by love, spoiled by
Yeah.
abundance. And so then she gets into a relationship with another human that they should be like equal on equal terms. And she brings in all of that, like, I should always be right. You should do everything I want. I should be treated like a princess. And the guy's going, uh-oh. And then
Yeah.
she won't hear, she'll never hear that she's wrong.
Yeah.
She'll never take criticism. Everything has to be her way. He gets no say in
Yeah.
any decisions. And dude, that's a recipe for disaster unless the guy's happy being a complete simp.
Yeah. Yeah. What do they call that? A beta male?
Yeah, yeah. Also, the funny thing about like simps and beta males is that they will like that's a tactic that they use to get in good with someone. Like I'll just be so agreeable that you'll like me, and
Yeah.
it works. But the problem is, so that's called subjugation. You subjugate yourself. You put yourself at a one down position to your partner. Like, oh yes, ma'am, you bet. Anything you want. Yep, absolutely. Like you're subjugating yourself to them.
Yeah.
Um, the interesting thing about subjugation is after a while, you start to choke on it and you start to get mad and irritated that you're not like when a person's subjugating themselves, they think there's going to be some payoff down the road. Like if I treat this, if a let's just say it's a guy and a girl, if I treat this woman so well right now, then later she'll like really appreciate that and she'll reciprocate and she'll take care of me. When really you're probably just feeding a demon.
Yeah.
Like you're just feeding into the problem, and that person's like not gonna just turn around and start worshiping you at some point. So then the person, the beta male or the simp or the person that's been subjugating themselves, they'll flip and they'll move into entitlement, and they'll get real mad and they'll throw fits and stomp their feet and, oh, why won't you do X, Y, and Z for me? And I've done so much for you and da da da. And the woman's like, too bad. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna keep our previous dynamic because it's so beneficial to me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
So this is where we go back, right? And we say, and because my guess is what happens is this is just a gut feeling that at the beginning of a relationship, and I'm not saying it's all men, but I'm guessing that there's a majority of men who look at a woman and they're like, oh my God, she's gorgeous. Like she's beautiful, or she's a thing. She's these two things.
Yeah.
But they start subconsciously subjugating themselves so they can be with her.
Yeah.
And then they get married, they have kids, and then all of a sudden he's like, holy shit, I've been walked on for fucking 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? And then the guy's like, wait a second, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be the doormat anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when there's a lot of problems that start.
Absolutely.
Right? So what happens, like, if I was to ask you, Kyle, like, what are some red flags that would, like, just being completely blunt here, I don't think enough fathers prepare their sons for what marriage actually is. And the same probably with fathers and daughters and mothers and daughters as well. I'm going to be extremely blunt with my kids about all aspects of life.
Yeah.
But what is it about things that you should keep an eye out for before you get into a relationship with a person, so that it's like, oh God, I want to marry you right now after dating you for 1 year. But once the stress of life hits and there's trauma that has not ever been unpacked, and it then just manifests into whether weaponization or whatever it is.
Yeah.
How do we identify that in early stages in a relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. Part of it to me is like taking your time before you get married. It's really tempting to get engaged and get married while still within the honeymoon window,
Yeah.
and it's different for everybody. I can't like give you one overarching rule for how all of that works, but I generally think it's good if you can see somebody go through some ups and downs in life. Like I would encourage people to date for a couple of years before they get engaged. See how let them go through a few seasons of life. Let them see how they behave when they bump up against something. Like honestly, it's pretty easy to go a full year and have it be sunshine and rainbows in a relationship. I think it's a lot harder to go 2 years without having anything bad happen or have anything stressful or have like a pretty fundamental disagreement. If you can get through a couple of years and maybe even 3 years of like good dating, there's a chance you've seen a lot. And that doesn't mean obviously that you've seen everything, because there's parts of ourselves that we don't even know about, so it's not necessarily that either one's hiding anything. It's just, how was I supposed to know how I was going to be when I had kids before I had kids? Like I had no way of knowing. But I think we don't get to know our partners well enough often, or people don't get to know their partners well enough often before they get married. A thing I would pay a ton of attention to would be consideration and reciprocation. How much do they think of you? How much do they do for you without being asked? How much are they considering you without you begging for your needs to be considered? I'd be paying attention to that hardcore. That's stuff that I'm going to teach both of my kids. Like, pay attention to how they treat you when they don't have to treat you that way.
Yeah.
And
at the same time, that's a two-way street, right?
Yep,
like,
big time.
I like what you said in a previous episode where I believe you said something along the lines of, if I'm focusing all my attention on my partner, and my partner is focusing all their, not all of it, because kids are in the mix, but if they're focusing on me heavily and I'm focusing on them heavily, then if both people are selfless, it's going to be a really good marriage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But oftentimes there's a lot of I want in there instead of let me help you.
Yep.
Right? Or the stresses of life become and they go from being pebbles to being boulders.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard to climb over a boulder instead of step up over a pedal or a pebble. Yeah. And then people are making a mountain out of a molehill, right? They're making a scenario way worse than it needs to be
Yep.
because they have jealousy or resentment or all of these negative buzzwords that
Yeah.
creep into something
Yeah.
because life is unfair. And they look at somebody else as like, well, this person has this vehicle or this house and they live in this neighborhood or they
Oh, yeah.
have, they go on these vacations, like it must be
Mhm.
nice. And then they look at their partner, or it's like, hey, this person's, in a conversation said they had sex with their husband 3 times a week and blah, blah, blah. And then there's all this comparing that happens. And it's like, wait a second, it's a
Yeah.
fucking crack.
Oh,
And now we're diving into this crack, making it better. And dude, it's bad. It turns
yeah.
bad.
It can be. I think with a relatively healthy partner, you can sit down with them and say, "Hey, can we kinda take stock here? Can we press pause and just, like, survey the landscape together and see what's going on?
Hmm.
What's the state of our relationship here? Do a little state of the union, and it's like, let's check in with each other. How are you doing? How am I doing? Like, what do we
Hmm.
need together? And how motivated are we to hey, we've been drifting, or like these issues have been coming up. How motivated are we to try to like work on these things and mend them? And I think a lot of relationships are good enough that they can tolerate that like, if
Yeah.
I were to go to my wife and say, hey, listen, like this thing is like really bothering me. I care about you tremendously and I'm feeling detached from you in this way. And like I really want to remedy that. If I say that to her in a really respectful way, and then if my partner is also relatively healthy and respectful, then she'd go, oh my gosh, okay. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Like what can we do? What do you want from me? Because if I bring a concern to my partner, I should also bring like my resolution, like here's how I want things to be, or I'm
Yeah.
just really just kind of setting down like something nebulous on the table.
Yeah.
Um, so she's like, "Well, what would you want from me? If I could give you what you wanted, what would that be?" And I should be able to tell her what that is.
Yeah.
And then hopefully she is healthy enough to say, "Okay, well, I've committed to you for our entire lives. Like, yeah, I'm willing to try to do that." And then also hopefully I'd be healthy enough to say, "Okay, and what are the things that you need from me?" All right, cool. Like I'm willing to try and do those things. Like that's how like marriage is almost like a constant coming back together. Like it's some people are lucky enough that they're married, like they're just together and they're just good everywhere.
Hmm.
They just grow together in all these ways, and that's super cool. But I think oftentimes marriage is more like driving a car, for on a long distance road trip where it's just a endless series of micro corrections. Like you can never just if I wanted to drive to California, I couldn't just point my car west and let go of the steering wheel. I would have to be like doing absolute constant, even the tiniest little um corrections to my path to keep myself on course. And I think if you want to keep your marriage on course, you have to be constantly doing little corrections and you have to be constantly aware of what's going on. So I
Gotcha.
think if you have a healthy partner, if you're a healthy enough person, if you're smart enough, if you're wise enough to bring your message to your partner in a way that doesn't make them defensive, which is a huge thing. Like if I'm like, you suck, you don't care about me. Well, that's a really shitty way for me to deliver my message because that's going to put my partner on their heels and make them defensive. But if I'm like, hey, you're awesome and I love you tremendously. Life is very stressful. Can we talk about something that's important to me? Like I want to have an even better relationship with you. They're more
Hmm.
likely to get in the pool of shared meaning, so to speak.
What?
Also, I know that I'm talking a lot here, but another thing that crossed my mind was sometimes the partner that subjugates themselves, and I think often, the that person kind of does it to themselves. Like that's their tactic to get the other person to like them.
Hmm.
And like it can be a savior complex. It can be more, it could be not that drastic, but more like, oh, I get my value from being useful. Oh, it feels so good when she's like, wow, that was so nice of you. Like they get a lot of the person in the one down position gets a lot of pleasure from being uh l- uh, being helpful, from feeling like the other person's so grateful to them.
Yeah.
um the problem is though, like if you start that better be your real personality, because that's going to be hard for you to keep up for the next 60 years.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then I think it's, you know, probably, on the opposite, thing that I hear frequently. I'm not saying this happens to everyone. I'm not generalizing it to all women, but another thing I'll hear is that, like, women will do that with sex. Like, "Oh, we're dating and sex is awesome and sex is super fun." And then as soon as they get married, they're like, "All right, cool. Well, I've got you now. Now I
Oh
don't
yeah.
need to do all that. I don't need to do all that stuff anymore." That was like dating. That was dating stuff. That was just
Yeah.
me, like, that was my attraction dance. And now that I have you, I don't have to do that anymore. It's like, "Oh shit, really?" Because I kind of like, I thought that's what I was signing up for. It's like,
Yeah.
nope. So like, it's too bad when people, I would say this goes back to an earlier part of the conversation of like what to look for. I would say what people could do when they're dating is be closer to your real self, you know, and
Yeah.
think of like, what could you keep up for a really long time versus like if there's like a dating, everyone has a dating version of you, but I would be careful about having the dating version of you be too different from the real version of you,
Yeah.
because that's how you, like, that's their impression of you, and you better be able to keep that up forever or you're being fake.
Hmm. Yeah. What happened? You've heard the term "squeaky wheel gets the grease," right?
Mhm.
What happens? What happens from a family dynamic standpoint when there's one individual within the family who, because of their weapon, maybe the term isn't the weaponization, but because of their behavior, their attitude, their personality, they require more of the attention,
Yeah.
thus causing others in the family to be like, this motherfucker gets their way
Yeah.
every
Th-
single time. They're
Yeah.
manipulative.
Yeah.
They're loud, they're boisterous. The tone in their voice is just wrong, and
Yep.
nobody's standing up for them.
Yep. Yeah, standing up to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, to oversimplify it, it can go one of two directions. One direction is the one that you're talking about, which is like everyone is just complicit and they do just allow that person to dominate the family.
Hmm.
The other direction, if the family's strong enough to do it, is they stand up to them.
Yeah.
And then now we can talk more about the, like, what can you do? Um, I had some notes about that. Let me find them. Oh, so I think this is true for any partner or any family member. So the strategies are basically set and enforce boundaries,
Mhm.
refuse to take responsibility for the manipulator's emotions, remain calm, avoid power struggles, be clear about your needs and expectations, listen to your intuition, and then bring in more resources if you need support.
Yeah.
The once you identify the problem, I think it's up to you to start educating yourself about what to do to break that.
Yeah.
Um, I'll use a personal example. So you talked, like, if this came to me after we had started our conversation about weaponizing, and I had to laugh to myself that it didn't like instantly pop to the top of my mind. I was in a really unhealthy relationship out of undergrad, and she was really abusive physically and emotionally and mentally, and she weaponized her mental health really, really bad.
Hmm.
And to the most drastic degree of like, she treated me extremely poorly, you know, very jealous, very manipulative, turned everything on me constantly. And then when I would want to leave, she'd say, you know, "I can't live without you. Don't leave me." Da da da. I'm like, "No, I'm leaving." And she'd say, "If you leave, I'm going to kill myself." And
Holy shit.
yeah, that's the ultimate weaponizing of mental health and coercive emotions, right? And so, um, there's a pattern that happened often. She would be horrible. I'd be like, I'm out here. We're breaking up. I want to leave. And she's like, "If you break up with me, I will kill myself." And she was serious. They weren't just words. She would try and take pills. I had to wrestle bottles multiple times, wrestle bottles of pills out of her hands so she wouldn't just down the whole bottle. Because she was on medications, and I won't say what they were, just in case the slight chance that somebody would that knows about the situation would be listening to this. One time I wasn't able to get to her in time, and she did swallow a whole bottle of pills, and then I had to take her to the ER, and they like force fed activated charcoal down her throat, and then in the ER, and then I sat in the hospital with her all night on suicide watch. And that all came from me needing to leave. Like, I was trying to end the relationship and get out of there, but it was, if you leave, I will kill myself. And and I did all, I'm such a nice guy and I care so much and I'm also psychologically minded, and I want to help her. And so I'm like doing all of those things, like pouring myself into her while also trying to like stand up for myself some and not lose myself completely. But, all of like the fixing that I'm trying to do. And if I just like love her and care about her enough and stick with her enough, like it'll turn it around. Dude, it didn't turn any of it around, and it was never going to, because it needed to come from her. So like
Yeah.
this is the thing that I hear from people of like, what can I do? It's like, you can set firm boundaries for yourself and then see how it goes, because it's really going to be up to them
Yeah.
if they ever make a change. So the way that relationship ended was, I finally did break up. I broke up with her lots of times, and always it never stuck because I was afraid she was going to kill herself. And this relationship lasted like 3.5 years, and finally the writing was on the wall where I was like, oh my God, I'm how could I ever get out of this? I'll never be able to get out of this, because she has the ultimate trump card. I'll kill myself if you leave, and I know she will, and I can't have that on my conscience. And dude, I sat with that for like a year, like that realization after being in this pattern for 3 years. And uh and then the way that I got out of it, Dan, was I broke up with her, and she said, "If you break up with me, I'm gonna kill myself." And I said, "I hope you don't." And I left. And
Jeez.
I left. 75% of me thought she might kill herself that
Yeah.
night. And I thought, that's I'm not responsible for her life anymore. And truthfully, I never should have been.
Yeah.
I never should have felt like I was. And I thought,
Did she have family that was helping her out at
I
all?
mean, yeah, yes and no, but dude, they had no more power than I had,
Yeah.
you know? She did come from a horrible background. She's not a horrible person, but she comes from a horrible background, which that all makes sense. But the bottom line is, she weaponized her own mental
Mental
health and her
health.
own
Yeah.
safety against me. And so you're asking like, well, what can you do? What can you
Yeah.
do when somebody's doing that? To me, the ultimate example of you having to set boundaries is when I said, I'm leaving. We're done. She says, I'm gonna kill myself. I said, I hope you don't. And I
Yeah.
and I left. And then I blocked her number, and knowing
Dang.
that she was gonna blow my phone up. I mean, there had been days that she'd called me 100 times in a day. If I
Damn,
went on a
dude.
trip with friends, I'd have 150 text messages. you know,
Damn.
where are you? What are you doing? Why didn't you respond to my message? I'm like, she's just frantically, it all comes from her fear. But anyway, we don't need to
Mm.
get too deep into the weeds with
Yeah.
that. But that does highlight the point that you can't change them. You can't, the only thing you can control is you. So you
Hmm.
set and enforce boundaries. So, um, you basically say, this is what I will tolerate and this is what I won't tolerate.
Yeah.
And you don't make them do anything. You just say, here's how I hope you behave. If you behave this way, things will be good. If you behave this negative way, here's what I'm going to do. And then
Hmm.
you actually do it, because that's going to be the only way that they're going to learn.
Right.
Don't make a threat that you're not going to follow through with. And obviously don't make it a negative threat. What I mean by threat is like, if you if you call me a name in an argument, I'm walking away. I'm not engaging with you when you're like
Hmm.
that. If you hit me, if you slap me, we're done. We're pressing pause. I will not talk to you for an hour,
Yeah.
or until you're calmed down. And then you actually have to enforce it when it happens, because a person they will eventually learn. And if they don't, then you just have to leave.
Yeah.
Um, you can't take responsibility for their emotions. You have to be willing to say, this is your stuff, and just because you're hardcore trying to blame me for it doesn't mean that I have to accept it.
Yeah. What happens in a scenario where, let's say it's a family group or a really close group of, whether it's family or friends,
Mhm.
and one of them in this scenario is the squeaky wheel?
Mhm.
Okay. And I've seen the show Intervention, where people come in, they surprise them, and it's all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, I don't like I feel attacked now.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
how do you prevent that from happening for that individual, where whether it's a child, a husband, or a wife, where let's say in this example, I'm a I'm an alcoholic,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like drinking, and then I become a different person, and I'm whether I'm nice or not nice as a drunk, and it's affecting my family.
Yeah.
How do in a scenario like that, or any scenario where the squeaky wheel needs the grease, how do you prevent approaching them without them feeling like they're being attacked?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you would you would remain calm. You would use I language. You wouldn't say you would try to avoid accusing and finger
Hmm.
pointing, and you would basically like lay it out in a calm and straightforward way, like, "Hey, here's what I'm feeling. Um, here are the problems as I see them. Here's what I hope could move forward. Here's how I hope we could move forward. I'm willing to be supportive in any way that I can. How how invested are you, Dan? Like you put yourself as the alcoholic in the
Hmm.
situation. Like here's here's how here's how I'm feeling. Here's how your drinking is affecting me. I just want you to know. Here's how I want things to go. Like I hope that we can make a better life. Um, here's what I hope you do. Like what are you willing to do?
Hmm.
And then if you're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, okay, I can't like thanks for telling me I can't I I'm not okay with hurting my family like this. Like I'll go to rehab, I'll go into counseling, I'll do whatever I have to do." Okay,
Hmm.
cool. But if you don't, it can that's why it gets to the point of like having to have interventions or people leaving.
Yeah.
Boundaries are not what I hope you do. That's like an expectation or a hope.
Yeah.
How I hope you behave. A boundary is, "Okay, Dan, like the next time you get drunk, I'm taking the kids and we're going to my mom's."
Yeah.
And then you get drunk and then I really do pack the kids up. You know, the next time you stay out on a bender, I won't be here when you get home and then you aren't.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you have to protect yourself because you can't control someone else.
Yeah. So at some point, the squeaky wheel, the people who are going to approach the squeaky wheel have to take a very hard stand that potentially is going to disrupt things even further.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes to course correct
Yeah.
an individual, or not necessarily course correct the individual, but let the individual know that their behavior makes another person or multiple people
Yeah.
feel a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard because it's hard especially for like really empathetic people. You know, like I should have broken up with that girlfriend a long time ago and been willing to walk away, and I think a lot of people wouldn't have put up with as much as I put up with.
Hmm.
But this is a case where it can be a case, and this is a conversation I have with clients often is you might have like one of your best characteristics could also be your Achilles heel.
Yeah.
You know, if you're too kind, if you're too understanding, if you're too empathetic, you might let someone get away with shit for way longer than they should
Yeah.
because you're so big-hearted.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
if you had that same characteristic with someone that was healthier, then that would just be like lovely. But
Yeah.
instead, it's like you don't it's really hard for you to draw a line. It's really hard for you to hold somebody else accountable.
Hmm.
It's really hard for you to see someone struggling, and so you'll always, you know, it's the classic oh, what's the word when somebody allows somebody else to do something? Enabler. Like you hear
Yeah.
that term all the time, especially
Yep.
with like alcoholism. Like, oh, you're enabling them. You're just enabling them. Yeah, it's really freaking hard to see your loved one like go through so much stuff. It's like, oh, if they, you know, if they crash their car, don't save them from that situation by buying them a new car or lending them yours or whatever. Like, let them feel the effects of their own decisions. Otherwise, you're enabling them, and it can be really hard to not enable when you love someone. So it's like
Yeah.
I could help them because I love them, or I could not help them and let my loved one like suffer tremendously,
Yeah.
dude, that's a really, really hard thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. How much time do you got left, Kyle?
Plenty.
Plenty. Okay. So I want to talk to you about a meme that I saw online, and it really frustrates me
Mm.
because this woman was saying things along the woman, and obviously the it's a meme, so I have to take it with a grain of salt because there's no it was generated to get attention.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Also, there was no context behind it.
Yeah.
Okay. But when I saw this meme, it was a meme of a man and a woman hugging. The man was in deep on the hug, and the woman was just kind of like patting his back. And the text said, when his love language is what was it? Physical touch, and your love language is acts of service, and there's dishes in the sink, right? I feel like that's this love language shit is a bunch of bullshit.
Okay.
Right? I feel like it is trying to label something to get some like weaponizing. Like, for example, yeah, my love language is acts of service towards me. So
Okay.
the only way I'm going to truly love you back is if you provide me with trips, or you provide me with going out to restaurants, or you make sure the house
Yeah.
is clean,
Yeah.
or you're doing this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, in that, I'm putting myself in that guy's shoes for a moment. I'm just like, I've already done the dishes and laundry. You're probably focused on the one thing I didn't get around to today. And
Yeah.
all I want is a fucking hug
Yeah.
out of you.
Yeah.
And you're in your brain, you're mixing it up to the point where I don't do anything.
Yeah.
So how can you even
Yeah.
relax for a moment
Yeah,
to
man.
do this?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I don't know. I saw that and I'm just like, that's kind of bullshit. So what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
like this
I
love language shit?
so I think that so the love languages aren't scientific, first of all.
Mm.
It's really just kind of like an observation. But
Yeah.
it does have face validity that a lot of people will read through them and be like, "Oh yeah, I can see all of this."
Mm-hmm.
I think, Dan, that what you're talking about there is really more like anyone could be unhealthy in some
Right.
way. I think generally speaking, the love languages have face validity, meaning it seems like they're describing what they're describing. That you would say, my my love language is physical touch. Like, I
Yeah.
just plain feel connected to my wife when she puts her arm around me, when she rubs the back of my head when we drive, when she like actually wants to approach me and give me a hug. It doesn't have to be all about sex all the time. It can be like, oh, when
Yeah.
she like just sits next to me and like nuzzles into me, when she sits on my lap when there's nowhere else to sit at a party, when she like all of those things, right? You say like, oh God, I just melt. I just can't even help it when she does that. I just feel super good.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's all men. Like
yeah,
all
that's
men.
a lot of men. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There are
Yeah.
men that don't like to be touched, but yeah. So that's a lot of people. But dude, so you could be like a healthy guy that feels like that. And then you could also be an unhealthy guy that feels like that and then wants to use all of that as in a weaponized way. Like you can weaponize anything
Yeah.
to use that weaponized word. So I think the love languages are fine, and I think you can use them in a manipulative way or not. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like if you could be like, well, I'm not doing the dishes because you're not hugging me enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would be weaponizing it,
Yeah.
so to speak. And you
Yeah.
could do that, or you could have the same like desire to be hugged, but not use it in a manipulative way. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you haven't done enough chores around the house, so I'm going to withhold this from you.
Yes.
Like that's
Yeah.
not cool.
Yeah.
But that's not the love language's fault. That's the
Yeah.
person that's doing it's fault. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah.
So I don't think the love languages are bullshit. They're not scientific, but I don't think they're bullshit. I think anybody can use anything in a manipulative way.
Yeah. I feel like in some way, shape, or form, all of those things are in fact tied together, right? So it's like if everybody likes acts of service, everybody loves physical touch, like in different
Mhm.
Like almost like back in the day when we were building our own football players on the Sega Genesis, you
Yeah.
could like you only had so much of a bucket, so
Yeah.
speed could only be one thing, power could
Yeah.
only be one thing. Like
Choosing where to allocate those resources.
exactly. So it's like obviously I'm a man. Uh, in my example, I probably like physical touch more than any type of act of service. Although
Yeah.
acts of service can show respect.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I did this thing for you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Dude, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it to end this though, I feel like it would be, um, we would lack in this if we didn't talk about the big one. And that would be like sex. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like I've heard this one too, where a lot of women and I see it on social media when I run across them. It's what turns me on the most. It's when the dishes are done and the laundry. It's just like actually that doesn't turn you on at all because I've done those things,
Yeah.
and you're just like you're not just throwing yourself at me because the laundry and some of the chores are done. Right?
Right.
That's just not how it works.
Right.
Right? So
Well, maybe maybe the person making that video is full of shit, or maybe that really is true for that person.
yeah,
But to me, Dan,
maybe.
the whole point is to understand the person that you're actually interacting with,
Yeah.
and to say to them, "Hey, listen, like I feel like I'm doing a lot, and I don't feel like it's moving the needle, and
Yeah.
I don't blame you for that.
Mhm.
What I want to know is." What would move the needle for you? Like, I don't care
Yeah.
about anything that I see on the internet. Like Dan, you and I are friends. Um, I want you to like me. Um, I want this to be a healthy, equal relationship. If I was to say to you, "Hey, dude, in our friendship, like, what do you really value the most?
Mhm.
What behaviors would you see from me that would like really make you feel good about this relationship?"
Yeah.
Then I would want to hear what those things really are.
Yeah.
And then I would say, "Okay, thank you for telling me that. I'm going to try and do those things." And then you
Mhm.
go do those things for days, weeks, and months. And then you return to the topic and you say, "Hey, how have I been doing? I've been doing those things. What do you think of that?" And if the person's still like really cold to you, then it's like, oh, there's a disconnect here. There's something that's not there's another variable that we're not
Right.
talking about somehow. Because otherwise, if you've done all the things that the person honestly said would be impactful, you would hope that that person would be like, "Oh my gosh, it's been incredible.
Yeah.
It's been just incredible." Like if my wife came to me and was like, "Hey Kyle, what can I do for you as your partner that would make you feel really, really good
Mhm.
every day?" And I was like, "Oh my God, if when I got home, you got up off the couch and like came and gave me a big hug, was like excited to see me.
Yeah.
If we sat by each other on the couch and you just like scratched my head, or if you would hold my hand when we're walking in public, or even just like hold my arm while we're walking, or any like come up behind me unexpectedly and rub my shoulders for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
That would be incredible
Mhm.
if you would do those things." And she'd say, "Okay, thanks for telling me that. Since I care about you, I'll do those things." And then for the next month, she does those things without me asking her and without me reminding her. She just does it because she cares. And then after a month, she checks in with me and says, "Hey, how have I been doing?" I'd probably be like, "Oh my God, incredible. One of the best
Yeah.
months I've ever had.
Yeah.
That was super, super nice." And she'd go, "Oh, cool. Well, I'm happy to do it."
Yeah.
But if
Does
she
that only work if that's a two-way street?
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, and that's
Because
how
doesn't that
relationships
person
should
then all of
be.
a sudden feel hey, is there something I can do for you? Then that person does all of these things. Meanwhile, the other person isn't doing anything. Or at some point, do you go, hey, listen, you've done these things. Thank you very much for that. Now, what can I do for you? Like
Mhm.
the the back and forth is what almost kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, where
Yeah.
it's like I need to focus more attention on my partner, and my partner needs to focus more
Yes.
attention on me. And if
Yeah.
we do that, it's a win.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
Exactly. That reciprocity feels incredible. Like, tell me, so I don't have to guess, I'm not a mind reader, but you tell me and I will really listen what you need from me and what you want from me, what would be the
Hmm.
most impactful, and then I will try really hard to do that. and vice versa. Then you ask me those same questions and I give you the honest answers, and then you do those things for me, and then we keep in constant communication with each other.
Yeah.
Dude, I think that'd be an awesome relationship.
Yeah.
And that the difficulty is when one person's capacity gets wound gets worn out to the point that they're like in survival mode. And I feel like it's a hard thing, but I feel like at that point, like when one person just doesn't have more to give, or they're in such a deep rut in their lives, I don't think it's like the silver bullet answer to everything. But man, I really encourage people in situation like that to go to counseling, because
Yeah.
a lot of times they're stuck in their own ruts. So like they're not going to be able to think their way out of it, because their thoughts have already gotten in such deep ruts that they're not even capable of having new thoughts that they go, "Oh, I never thought about it like that. I'll just cheer myself up." Like that usually
Yeah.
doesn't just happen like that. And
Yeah.
also then their family members can't do much to help them either, because I think it's paradoxical, but often our family members are like not very well positioned to help. Like I'm sure you've seen this play out before, but like if uh, s- sometimes you've been telling somebody something for a long time and they're like, yeah, 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 whatever, whatever, whatever. Then someone else tells them the same exact thing and they're like, oh, I had this
Oh.
revelation. Somebody told me this thing, and you're just like, oh my God, so frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
I think we just end up tuning out. Unfortunately, I think we tune out the people that are closest to us. So I think counseling can be a really good
Right.
place where it's like, all right, I'm going to get an interjection of new ideas and new perspective, and I'm actually another cool thing about counseling is it's like an hour a week or an hour every other week or something, where all of the shit that's been in the back of your mind that you just keep on kicking the can down the road or pushing to the back in
Hmm.
service of doing what you have to do, that hour a week, you can bring all that stuff to the forefront and really process it.
Yeah.
So I think counseling can be really helpful to get somebody out of a rut like that.
Hmm. Hmm. I like it. I like it. Well, I think this was a great conversation. I mean, we could sit here and talk for hours
Right.
about this type of topic.
Right.
Um, I suggest that if you are in fact interested about topics that we cover, just Google them.
Yeah.
And there's so much information. I would just be careful that the what you're reading is actually the good stuff, as opposed to someone who is spiteful and writing
Yeah.
content about something that's like, if you're getting marriage counseling from a man whose husband cheated on her, on him, and or whatever the case
Yeah.
is, and then that person is just writing not like hateful stuff
Yeah.
about that might
Yeah.
not be
Yeah.
the right thing,
Yeah. No, that
or
can happen.
that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of really good stuff out there. There's a lot of really good YouTube, other podcasts out there as well
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
probably go into more technical stuff than what we do. But,
Hmm.
dude, great conversation today, Kyle. Thanks for bringing your expertise to the show. And everybody, any final thoughts before we shut her down today?
No, that was great. Stay inside. It's actual temperature -12 here right now.
Damn,
It's
dude.
not nice out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. If you guys could do us a favor and go to Apple Podcast or Spotify, wherever you download the Man or listen to the Man Therapy podcast, please give us a 5-star review. Let everybody know that this is not only educational, but entertaining as well. And then we also have a YouTube channel where we post the video versions of these podcasts. Go subscribe to that. So good vibes, everybody. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you next time.